Right, so Rishi Sunak has again been found to be on the take and on the make, but a quick whoops, sorry, it was inadvertent, bit of an accident, silly me. Won't do it again, honest Gov. And that's that, it would seem. If we wouldn't be able to get away with it, neither should he. And the one rule for us, another for them, has been demonstrated to death by Sunak. His wife's non-dom status, despite literally being married to the then Chancellor of the Exchequer. The allegations of benefiting from Russian business dealings because his wife's stock in family firm Infosys, a firm still believed to be operating in Russia despite claims to be pulling out, all whilst encouraging others not to do business with Russia, of course. The US green card he still held whilst Chancellor of the Exchequer here, despite that making him a de facto US citizen. His involvement in offshore tax havens, quietly dealing with his wife's financial interests, which of course he has strenuously denied ever having any knowledge of. A fixed penalty notice for partying during the pandemic, while students who did the same were fined thousands, making him as bad as Boris Johnson when it came to penalties over government conduct during that time. A second fixed penalty notice was for him, though, for making a video in a moving car whilst not wearing a seatbelt. His claims about transparency before deciding, no, I won't release my tax return. Questions still circling over his involvement and potential shareholdings with Theleme Partners, a hedge fund he helped found, which are major shareholders in Moderna, the vaccine company, now setting up shop in Oxfordshire. The questions regarding a financial interest from Sunak here not going away either. It's in a blind trust, he claims, so he doesn't know if he's making the money from them is the excuse there. Except he'd know if he'd sold his stock in Theleme, wouldn't he? He claims he doesn't know about his wife's business dealings despite the fact they live together, and it says a lot for how he's running the nation's finances if he's not actually aware of those in his own household. And those tax haven firms that he apparently has set up to manage her affairs really makes this a very difficult pill to swallow. He was allowed to give up the green card on the quiet, slapped wrist despite being in government and being in a position to help make and shape laws during the pandemic in relation to that event. On road safety even, he just got fixed penalty notices. Every single time Rishi Sunak has been embroiled in a situation he seems to be benefiting from via an unfair advantage, he gets away with it. And yet again, it has happened now in relation to literally breaching Parliament's code of conduct. He's obviously inherited Boris Johnson's Teflon shirt. This apparently was inadvertent, though. Inadvertent, so doing a lot of heavy lifting, that word. He inadvertently made a budget policy that accidentally just happened to benefit his wife's business interests. Whoops, who knew? Never mind. Sorry, folks. It was an accident, honest. He's had more accidents than a dog with the squits. This all relates back to the budget policy, of course, on childminding announced by Jeremy Hunt during the budget back in March. A new childminding policy was announced out, secure more childcare places. There was a pay incentive to encourage people to go into childminding and encourage childminders back into the job, where those registering as a childminder with Ofsted would get a grant worth £600. But if they did so via one of only a handful of pre-approved childminding agencies, however, they would get twice that. They would get a £1,200 grant. Why, if you sign up with an agency, would you get more, though? Clearly, the government wants you to sign up with the agencies. What difference does it make to the government as long as there are enough childminders, though? Largely none. So, what was the incentive for the government to be pro-agency? Can't ignore the fact Sunak's wife had shareholdings in one of them called Koru Kids, can we? And indeed, neither could Daniel Greenberg, Parliament's Commissioner for Standards, who has found Sunak did indeed breach the parliamentary code of conduct over this. The claim is that this was done inadvertently, because Sunak apparently doesn't realise the difference between registering an interest and declaring an interest. Registering an interest is simply reporting it. Ministers and MPs do it through the year in the Register of Interests. Not all are publicly available, however, it should be noted. But declaring an interest is the act of drawing attention to said registered interest. Sunak, despite being an MP for 8 years now, despite being the prime bloody minister, apparently didn't know the difference, and the Commissioner has accepted that. No punishment yet again, slap wrist. The Commissioner has the power to suspend or even expel ministers from office, but instead an apology and a rectification procedure will be followed. In other words, Sunak can now basically declare his wife's interest in this affair this late, and everything's fine, jobs are good. And then what changes? Probably nothing then. Certainly not the man in charge of the country. All very inadvertent, though. Perhaps we ought to try and adopt that excuse, though. I doubt we'll get away with it the same way Rishi Sunak does. I inadvertently forgot to pay for petrol. Sorry, I missed work. I inadvertently neglected to leave home. Next time a kid gets in a fight at school, they can always say to the teacher, sorry, miss, I inadvertently punched him. Nadine Dorries can excuse her missing in action for the last year routine as having inadvertently disappeared. Keir Starmer can excuse his lies by saying he inadvertently never meant a word he's ever said. Dido Harding inadvertently flushed £39 billion down the loo after it inadvertently fell out of her back pocket. Where does it end? And when the highest office holder and de facto leader of the country can get away with personal screw-up after rule breaking, where does it actually end? He should be held to a higher account than us, not less. But as we know, in the world of real life, that is what happens. Where he gets a slap on the wrist, we get things like benefit sanctions. Where he gets a fixed penalty, we face maximum fines. Sunak inadvertently creates a policy that hands his wife a ton of cash, and oh dear, how silly of me, never mind, what am I like, ends up being the message. It isn't good enough. It's almost every other month we discover this guy is making policy and running the country in some way to benefit himself or his family personally. And it has to stop. We're a flaming laughingstock and should serve as a reminder that rich people make bad leaders. So let's stop voting for them, whatever party they're in. Thanks for watching. I hope you found the video useful. Please like, share and subscribe if you did. More content out daily. Do have your say in the comments below and join the conversation. Meanwhile, here's a video recommendation where Sunak's loving with the oil and gas industry might also be to line his own pockets too, because everything does, it seems, doesn't it? And, well, I'll hopefully catch you on the next vid. Cheers, folks.